At 1942 local time yesterday, specialized radar arrays at the Palmyra Air Base tracked a signature Israeli defense analysts have dreaded for months. A massive, coordinated salvo of ballistic missiles cleared the Iranian border. These weren't standard Shahab models. Within 90 seconds, telemetry confirmed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had committed its most advanced assets to a direct onslaught on Tel Aviv. On the tarmac at several classified IF installations, F-35 Adir jets were already fueled and idling. Their mission was authorized hours prior by the Security Cabinet, a total decapitation of the Iranian energy grid. The pilots sat in their cockpits, oxygen masks secured. They waited for the final green light for a 3-hour flight intended to redraw the map of the Middle East. Then, with exactly 14 minutes remaining before the first wheels left the runway, a high-priority flash message arrived from the United States. It didn't come from the Pentagon or the State Department. It originated from a secure terminal in Florida. The order was as brief as it was shocking. Stand down. 120-hour freeze in effect. This was the moment the world shifted. We are now living in the window of the secret 5-day protocol. It is a period of forced restraint that has left the Israeli military establishment in a state of quiet fury. Meanwhile, the Iranian cleric architects are scrambling to understand their sudden, temporary reprieve. The central question isn't just why the kinetic action was halted. We need to know what Option 9 actually entails and why the next 5 days are the most dangerous period in modern history. To understand the gravity of this stand-down order, we must look at the technical reality of the attack on Tel Aviv. This wasn't a symbolic gesture. Preliminary debris analysis suggests the IRGC utilized the Fatah-2 hypersonic missile for the first time in a saturation onslaught. The technical problem for Israel's Arrow-3 interceptors is one of geometry. Standard ballistic missiles follow a predictable parabolic arc, making them relatively easy for computers to track and kill. The Fatah-2 utilizes a maneuverable glide vehicle that skips along the upper atmosphere. It changes its terminal velocity and impact point in the final seconds of flight. This is the Szymanka anomaly, a reference to the radar blind spot created when these missiles enter a plasma stealth phase during high-speed descent. While the Iron Dome and David's Sling intercepted significant fire, several warheads broke through. Shrapnel and submunitions rained down on Petah Tikva. Significant structural damage hit the Reading Power Station. The IDF High Command viewed this not as a skirmish, but as a systematic attempt to blind the nation's primary radar nodes. In the immediate aftermath, the IDF saw a total energy grid kinetic action as the only proportional response. The plan was to dismantle every major power generation facility in Iran, from Tehran to the southern dams. This wasn't about revenge. It was about removing the industrial capacity of a nation to sustain a long-term war. The jets were ready. The targets were painted. The coordinate packages were loaded. The stage was set for the largest aerial bombardment since 1991. Then, the political reality from across the Atlantic slammed the door shut. The sudden intervention by Donald Trump has sent shockwaves through the traditional diplomatic chain of command. Officially, the U.S. has a sitting administration. Yet, a government in waiting is now calling the shots on planetary security. This is the oil could push toward $150 a barrel. Gas could hit $15 a gallon in the United States. Trump informed the Israeli inner circle that such a move would be viewed as economic sabotage against his future administration. The leverage used was the Memorandum of Understanding, the $3.8 billion annual defense aid package. Trump made it clear, ignore this 5-day window, and that aid is reevaluated the moment the administration flips. This is effectively a geopolitical veto. If Israel acts alone, they lose the shield of the U.S. veto at the UN Security Council. They become diplomatically isolated. But there is a secondary reason for this freeze. It is an economic pivot. A total decapitation of Iran's Karg Island oil terminal would trigger a $2.3 trillion liquidity trap. Global markets are balanced on a knife's edge. Major Western banks hold massive positions in energy futures. An immediate kinetic action would cause a margin call so large it could collapse the banking sector before the weekend. The 5-day pause isn't just about peace. It is about giving big money enough time to move to the exits before the lights go out. While the world watches the missiles, the real story is happening in shipping lanes and digital ledgers. During the last 48 hours, maritime tracking identified at least 14 dark tankers moving away from Iranian waters at high speed. This is the $78 billion exit. This 5-day pause provides a critical window for Western-exposed firms to dump Iranian-linked energy assets. If the infrastructure is vaporized on day one, these firms lose everything. By delaying the onslaught by 120 hours, Trump has provided a universal settlement window. It allows for an orderly liquidation of assets tied to the Iranian energy sector. We are seeing massive movements of capital. They knew a decapitation was coming but couldn't afford the immediate flash crash. While the public hears talk of negotiations, private ledgers show a frantic race to decouple from the Iranian economy. The freeze isn't a peace treaty. It is a bankruptcy proceeding for a nation-state. The creditors are securing their collateral before the building is demolished. The strategic danger of this pause cannot be overstated, particularly at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. This 21-mile wide waterway is the ultimate tripwire for continental trade. The pause has given Houthi rebels in Yemen a golden opportunity to reposition mobile missile batteries. Intelligence reports suggest Iranian-backed forces are moving anti-ship cruise missiles into hardened silos during this 120-hour window. This brings us to the revelation of Option 9. For months, Option 9 has been a whispered term in the halls of the Pentagon and the Kiryat. It is not just a standard military onslaught. It is the total blackout protocol. According to leaked descriptions, Option 9 is designed to send Iran back to the 1920s technologically within hours. This isn't about blowing up buildings. It's about a digital and physical lobotomy of the state. Option 9 requires perfect atmospheric conditions and a specific alignment of the Iranian civilian work cycle. The goal is to minimize immediate casualties while maximizing permanent infrastructure failure. The protocol is the ultimate leverage. The leak of its existence serves as a final warning to the Iranian high command. Comply with the back-channel demands within 120 hours, or face a reality where your country no longer functions as a modern entity. To understand the scale of what is being planned, we have to look at the anatomy of Option 9. This isn't a mission involving standard high explosives. The core of this protocol involves the deployment of graphite. When these munitions detonate over a power substation, they release thousands of chemically treated carbon fibers. These filaments are thin and highly conductive. They drift onto transformers and high-voltage lines. They create massive short circuits that effectively melt the core components of the electrical grid. We aren't talking about a temporary power outage. We are talking about making the equipment irreparable. Option 9 targets the 400 kV backbone of the Iranian grid, the central nervous system of their industrial capacity. The 120-hour countdown is hard-coded for a Friday deadline for a very specific reason. Friday marks the settlement window for oil futures and intercontinental banking transfers. If the onslaught occurs on day 6, it lands precisely when Western markets are closed for the weekend. If the kinetic action happened on a Tuesday, it would bankrupt 3 of the largest energy desks in Europe within hours. By waiting, this shadow command ensures the economic fallout is contained to the target nation. This delay has also triggered the 38 generals' mutiny within the Pentagon. Senior military officials are reportedly terrified that Trump is pre-negotiating a new map of the Middle East without the Joint Chiefs. They see the pause as a dangerous precedent where private diplomacy overrides established military doctrine. But for the cleric architects of the strike, the mission is clear. By the time the 120 hours expire on Friday, the Iranian inner circle will have to decide their fate. Will they remain a 21st century power or return to a pre-industrial existence? We are witnessing the death of the petrodollar and the birth of a new, deal-based chaos. For 40 years, the Middle East was governed by a rules-based order. That era ended the moment the 14-minute window closed yesterday. They are backed by the personal intervention and leverage of a single individual. This is a monumental shift in how power is projected. While Israeli jets are grounded, Russia and China have not been idle. Satellite imagery shows Russian transport planes landing in Tehran. They are likely delivering advanced electronic warfare suites. China has used this 120-hour window to move naval assets into the vacuum left by U.S. carrier groups. The result is a world that has moved from strategic ambiguity to high-stakes poker. Israel may gain the energy sovereignty it seeks by destroying Iran's grid, but it has lost the predictable support of the American administrative state. We are seeing a new axis form. The chain of command starts at a private dinner table in Florida and ends on a runway in the Negev Desert. We didn't just delay a war yesterday. We witnessed the birth of a world where formal structures of government are bypassed for raw, transactional leverage. The question is no longer if the decapitation will happen. The question is what the world looks like when the option 9 filaments begin to fall. As we approach the end of the 120-hour window, 3 realistic scenarios could unfold. The first is the diplomatic exit. Back-channel talks result in a massive Iranian concession. The Shadow Command claims a historic peace victory without a single shot fired. Given the intensity of the Tel Aviv onslaught, this remains the least likely outcome. The second scenario is the controlled burn. The pause expires, and Israel carries out a limited version of Option 9. They target only military-industrial nodes rather than the entire civilian grid. This satisfies the demand for retaliation while attempting to prevent total comprehensive energy collapse. The third, and most volatile, if this happens, we will see an immediate and permanent shift in the regional balance of power. Iran would be effectively removed from the comprehensive stage as a functional economy for decades. For ordinary people, the era of cheap, predictable energy is over. Supply chains for electronics and agricultural chemicals will be disrupted as the energy Cold War turns hot. We are no longer waiting for a war to begin. We are waiting to see how the Shadow Command decides to end it. The situation remains incredibly fluid. The next 48 hours will be the most telling. While the missiles have stopped falling, the financial and military machinery is moving faster than ever. We are tracking the price of Brent crude and the Ghost Fleet tankers. These are the primary indicators of what is coming on Friday. If the kinetic action is truly confirmed, the big money will have finished its exit by tomorrow evening. We have to stop watching the missiles, start watching the bonds and the energy futures. The algorithms that govern news feeds often suppress data regarding grid fragility. That is why we have to look at the raw numbers. The lights are still on for now, but the 120-hour clock is ticking. I want to turn this over to you. How is this story being covered where you live? Are you seeing unusual fluctuations in fuel prices or energy warnings? Which of the 3 scenarios do you consider most likely? Can the Shadow Command negotiate a way out, or is Option 9 an inevitability? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective helps us build a clearer picture of the planetary impact. We will continue tracking the telemetry and financial flows. Use these remaining hours wisely. I'll see you in the next update. Would you like me to generate a series of community post updates to keep your audience engaged until the Friday deadline?